Hey guys, WRX. I hope this day finds you well. And this is my lead into my next project I have going on. Unfortunately, I've had these components right before you in my office for the last, oh gosh, must be 6 months now. I just haven't had time to really do much with the STI. And as I said in previous videos, this is kind of one of those projects that is grouped along with a couple other projects that you'll see in future videos. But those videos are the incorporation of an intercooler sprayer system. For the most part, most of the components that I'm going to be using are found on the S209, so I'm trying to keep it OEM plus, if you will. And of course, I didn't want to tear the car apart more than once, so I kind of just want to do all these projects all in one. So I've got this subwoofer project to do, got the intercooler spray to do. I still, unfortunately, have not hooked up my my lights. All the wiring is still right there, waiting to go inside the interior of the car. And then I'm also going to add this painless wiring kit. It's the 7-circuit ignition on system, because I just don't want to scab a bunch of wires together and piggyback them off of the fuse box. So I kind of want to do it right and kind of have it clean and tidy while I'm in there. So this is what we have. All right, so without further ado, let's kind of go over the components and why I went with these components. So I've been around for a bit. I started to install stereos in my own car back in, oh gosh, early 90s. And back then, the go-to components were Alpine. I'm sure there's a bunch of other manufacturers that are probably better than what I chose, but this is just what I know. Alpine's always been a part of my life for the better part of, oh my gosh, 35 years or so. So that's why I went with this. In particular, as you can see, this is just going to power my subwoofer. And the subwoofer I went with, there's the model number. It's part of the Halo system. It's the subwoofer type R or R-type, whatever they call themselves these days. This one is a 2 ohm dual voice coil 12-inch woofer. So fortunately, or I guess I should say fortunately, this box is a little bit smaller than my normal boxes I go with, and I'm glad, because my space in my trunk is getting awfully small. So the great thing about this particular amp, and I'm sure a lot of the current amps on the market are probably the same way, but you don't need a remote turn-on switch for this particular one, because I plan on running the stock Harman Kardon system in my car. I mean, honestly, I don't see any need in switching it out at this point, so I'm just going to run with that. So the input comes from this guy here. This is the adapter. Goes from 2-channel speaker wire to RCA. So where are we going to get the signal from? I'm glad you asked. So let's go to the back of the car here. So it's got the Harman Kardon 8-inch subwoofer right there. I mean, it's decent for, low, or I guess mid-range more than anything else, but really nothing for the low end. However, on a few songs, it does kind of hit inside the car, which kind of surprises me every time it does it, because it's like, oh wow. So anyways, what I'm going to do is, here's one of the wires here. There's another one on the back side, but this is an example of what I'm going to tap into. So I bought the spade connectors, the male spade connectors for this to make an adapter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it split 2 ways. So I'm hoping to be able to continue to use this possibly, and then split the signal and have this go to the amplifier, just so it can receive the nominal signal to help to power that. But if that does not happen, then I'll just use the standalone 12-inch subwoofer in the meantime. But I don't know if you can see that, but the other wiring connector is right there. So I did look online to figure out what those wires correspond to, and I still yet have to verify it. But from what I found, I don't know if this is correct. Like I said, I'm going to verify. So here's one side, here's the other side. I just need to make sure that these line up to what I found, because I found conflicting reports that say just the opposite. So that's yet to be determined. And here are the spade connectors, the males and the females, just so I can make my little Y adapter with that. And then I'm going to go run with this subwoofer level knob. And to get things wired up and get things power to the back of the car to power it, I just went with this kicker setup. It seemed to be pretty complete, and it really wasn't that expensive. And it helped protect the wires. I'm going to use this wire loom to kind of get things all nice and neat and flush and what have you. So, all right, this is just an introduction, and we will continue to install it. Okay, so the first order of business installing the subwoofer in this STI is running the power wire to the back of the car. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this this fuse and place it in the engine bay, because closest to the battery as possible is the best, just in case if you get a short on down the line. It's best to have it right close to the battery. So I don't want this actually within view, so I'm going to hide it behind this fender shroud here. So in order to put it in the correct location, just gotta put it at the furthermost spot, and just kind of move this into its factory position so you get the spacing correct. So right about there is where we want it. All right, so I've got my little fuse box here, 3M taped to the inside of the fender. When the factory fender shroud is on here, you're not gonna be able to see it. So what I'm doing now is I'm snaking the primary amp cable down through the fender. And the reason why I'm doing that, well, let's just take a look here. I don't have much of any grommets here. I did go out and buy that Perrin grommet kit, but it says to put it right here, of which this is a 2020. The grommet's not, there's no hole there to put the grommet. So I am going through the driver's side fender well grommet for this application. I'll show you what exactly I'm looking at here. All right, so there's the wire. It's fished down, and there it is right there. So what I'm going to do is try to fish it through the top of that grommet, kind of separating itself from the other items. And what I'm simply going to do is I'm not going to cut a hole per se. What I'm going to do is just cut an X using this hobby knife here, and just fish it through, and it should come out into the inside of the cab. All right, there you had it. Made the little X with the X-Acto knife and just simply pushed it right through. In that area where it is, the rubber's actually fairly thin, so there's no issues with that. And by making that X, it helps that rubber grommet to kind of fill the void in between the grommet and the wire itself, to kind of, I don't know, make it somewhat waterproof. However, with this fender liner here, hopefully won't be any issues with water infiltration. So let's go ahead and go to the inside of the car, just make sure the cable is sticking out. All right, so we're looking for the blue cable, and there it is. Okay, so now that we got our power wire pulled through from the engine bay to the interior of the car, what I'm doing now is just that silver wire you see there is the remote turn on switch, which if I decide to change out my head unit down the road, I'm already going to have this wire fed. And if you notice, there's another wire, that black wire. What that is going to help with is the subwoofer base knob. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and close all this in a wire loom and put it along the driver's side of the car. And then at a future date, should I change my head unit, I'll run the RCA cables and speaker wires on the opposite side, because as you know, you don't want to have the same, you don't want the speaker wires to run alongside the power wire, or you're going to get the alternator hum in your system. So to be continued. All right, so now that we got all of our subwoofer wiring to the back of the car here, there's some extra wires here for the intercooler sprayer, but there's the amp wire. Here's a remote turn on in case I need it for future time. And then here's the Alpine subwoofer adjustment knob. But in order for this to work, you got to get signal somehow. So right here is the Harman Kardon 8-inch subwoofer, and here's the factory inputs that send the signal to this dual voice coil subwoofer. So the question came up: what wires were doing what? Which one's positive? Which one's negative? I saw some stating contrary to each other, so I decided to test it out myself. So what I did was I just made up this little bracket right here, as you see. I connected these two leads into the two spades right here. And what you do is you simply grab a AA battery, hook it up. And what you need to do is have somebody go inside the cab of the car and look at the subwoofer cone itself and see which way the subwoofer goes. So when you make your connections and you tap the battery to each side, the subwoofer is either going to go up or it's going to go down. Ideally, you want it to go up. If it does go up, then you'll know what your positive lead is and what your negative lead is with regards to what you have right there. And so this is what I came up with. So the first one at the 6 o'clock most position is a green and black. So in this case, the green is positive, the black is negative. And then also with this combination that's at the 12 o'clock of this subwoofer, the red is positive and the yellow is negative. So I made up a harness of sorts. This is the Kicker KISL 2-channel. These get inputted into the amp that you're going to use, and then it will just go to these male spades here. However, I would potentially like the capability of being able to run that Harman Kardon 8-inch subwoofer along with my 12-inch subwoofer, so I added these inputs on here. Now, is it going to be too much for the amp to send a signal to both? I don't know, but I'm going to give it a try. Well, I'll give it a try without using the 8-inch, and then I don't know, if it sounds okay, I'll just run with it. If not, then I'll add the other. So, all right, to be continued. All right, so I got everything thrown back in the car, and this is absolutely not how I'm going to install this. This is just here temporarily until I can work out any issues or problems and troubleshoot if need be. But basically, everything's hooked up. I'm not really sure why that blue light is on because I don't have the stereo on. But with this particular Alpine amp, in order for it to basically sense the signal from the speaker inputs, you have to go, if you notice around the far left where it says turn on, you have to turn it to the DC. And because we're doing that, the input level on this one is going to be high. And then with the remaining adjustments, you just adjust it tailored to what you want. So pretty junky. I do have a little bit more trunk room than this, as I'm going to mount the probably the amplifier up on the shelf here and not just have it sitting down there. But this is basically how she is. I guess we'll go in and see if it works. Yeah, let me get back to you on that because I know I have to use a non-copyrighted song or whatever. But I'm not even going to play a song. Let me just get back and I'll get back to you if it works. Okay, so I just tested the system out and everything is good to go. Subwoofer turned on to exactly what it was supposed to. And I ended up putting the bass adjustment knob down here, out of sight, out of mind kind of a thing. I didn't want that thing sitting on the dash or anywhere. I kind of want it hidden. And even then, this is not as discreet enough for me. And temporarily, I could have put it in here, but I have these those light switches that I have in here, so that wasn't going to be a thing. All right. Well, this concludes the video of the adding a subwoofer, amp and subwoofer to the existing Harman Kardon stock stereo system, and everything's good to go. Oh yes, WCU Cougar X out.